When you're trying to find a top 10 list of the best games for the Sega Saturn, well, that list starts getting really easy real fast as there's tons of great titles to choose from. However, when you're trying to find a hidden gems list that's worth its merit, you have to turn to the Game Collector, and this is Second Opinion Games. And today we do the top 10 hidden gems for the Sega Saturn.
Second Opinion Games.
Number 10, Grid Runner. Grid Runner's like a crazy cross between Bomberman and some type of weird sports game. Basically, you're on a crazy map and you're trying to play Capture the Flag, mixed with tag. Basically, if you could get to the flag first, then you could run around collecting more flags, and when you get a predetermined number of them, you win. If you don't get to that flag first, that means your opponent, you have to tag them. Then run around and try to get more flags. It seems like a pretty easy concept, and you think it wouldn't be that fun. However, this game only cost me $1, and it still is super cheap, and unbelievably fun for the money. Not to mention, it's quite long, and an upper level starts to get very challenging. I honestly could not recommend this one enough. Number 9, Pro-pinball. Fast, cheap, and easy is probably the best way to describe this game. It's really just one board. However, when I got into playing other pinball games, I realized it's much better to have quality over quantity. And Pro Pinball really brings it. The board doesn't really look like much, and it's just pinball. However, it is one of the best pinball games I've ever played. The music could be a little bit better, but it's pretty deep, and it has some crazy stuff going on in the top screen there on occasion. This game is really good, and it can be had for probably about $7 or $8 total. It might not be the best pinball game on the Sega Saturn, but it's definitely worth your time.
Welcome.
Number 8, Sonic Jam. Sonic Jam is the only true Sonic game to come out for the Sega Saturn. I'm sure everyone knows about it, and why should it be in the Gems list? Well, most people just took a pass on it, mostly because they were expecting some type of super great 3D Sonic game, and instead they got all the old games from the Sega Genesis, complete with their slowdown. However, they were really missing out. You also have the Sonic & Knuckles, which you see an awesome animation of plugging in the expansion pack. You could play Sonic 1, 2, or 3, and you could finally use the Spin Dash in Sonic 1. The game is amazing, and it does show you what a 3D game of Sonic would have looked like on the Sega Saturn. Absolutely awful. It would have been awful. Thank goodness we have this all-in-one title, because now I don't need my old Sega Genesis for anything except for all the games that aren't Sonic the Hedgehog. Number 7, a stall. Nowadays, this game's becoming more and more popular, probably because it looks amazing. The graphics here are some of the absolute best on the system. And it has quite a few weird effects going on here too, whether it's a lighting effect or just overall sprite scaling, truly showing off what the Saturn had in mind. Also, 2-player, see a second player can control the bird here. However, if a second player is playing, it doesn't really make it that much easier, because if the bird gets hit then, well, you'll lose a life. That means 2 people pulling from the same life group. It means you're going to die twice as fast. But it is really fun to play that way, and single player is great as well. And also, your character can learn new moves as the game goes on. Overall, this is one of the best looking games on the Sega Saturn, and is really as fun as it looks, which is really a lot of fun. Number 6, Solar Eclipse. Like FMV cutscenes, well, you have almost an hour of them here. On top of it, you have a really good game as well. 30 huge levels, boss battles that go on for several minutes and change as the game progresses. This is unbelievably awesome. Yes, there is a bit of a short draw distance here, but the music is good, the weapons feel great. It's basically like Star Fox if Star Fox wasn't awful. This is really, really good, and it can be had really cheap. After all, it is a hidden gem on the Sega Saturn. Number 5, Scud, the Disposable Assassin. Have you ever wanted to walk up to a vending machine and buy a robot that would kill anyone you want? Well, that's pretty much the plot of Scud the Disposable Assassin, and this game is incredible for the simple concept that you could plug in the light gun into the second controller port and play the side-scrolling levels the way you should with the D-pad, and all of a sudden it turns into a light gun shooter. Yes, awesome light gun shooter. Very much a hybrid and well ahead of its time. There's also some computer-generated cutscenes with some actual humor involved here. The scenery is very dynamic. It continuously keeps you on your toes, jumping back and forth between run and gun and shooting things. However, there is a bit of a load time here between levels and sections, so just roll with the punches and play as a super awesome assassin. Number 4, Bug 2. Now, you probably can't go wrong with the first Bug game, but Bug 2 has a beat on pretty much every level. The game's longer, the sound effects are better, and the graphics have been majorly overhauled. Matter of fact, this is one of the better looking games for the system, and I really enjoy how they have 2D sprites and 3D worlds. That is pretty much one of my favorite things ever, and this game has it in spades, to the point where jumping on a 2D sprite in these worlds to take them out is at sometimes very challenging. If you die or miss a jump, you'll see a crazy squishing animation trying to show off the game's humor here. Maybe it tries to force it down your neck a little bit too hard, but the game is great and it's perfect for the Halloween themes in all of us. At least the first level anyway. Number 3, Herc's Adventure. The spiritual sequel to Zombies Ate My Neighbors. Those are pretty big shoes to fill, however, Herc's Adventure pulls it off. This time you have 3 very different people to choose from. Hercules, Jason, or Athena. And each of these acts in different ways, and they have their pluses and minuses, similar to Gauntlet. So you know that Hercules is the big muscle-bound guy that can lift anything, and he's voiced by the same guy who does the voice of Homer Simpson. Also, the cartoons are extremely well done. Sometimes when you're playing, the ground will just open up for Hades to have a little chat with you, or Zeus could swing on by. Also, the sense of humor here is spot on, sometimes having me laugh out loud. This game is getting very, very expensive. You can get it for the PlayStation 1, but I think it plays quite a bit better on the Sega Saturn. Number 2, In the Hunt. Far from your average shooter, this is made by the same people that made the Metal Slug series, so there's beautiful hand-drawn artwork and super fast, intense action. Now, the Sega Saturn's pretty much known for its awesome shooters, but this one often gets left off to the side, mostly because it's not a Japanese import. It actually came out here stateside, and because of the horrible, crippling slowdown. But try not to let that get you down. Sometimes it actually helps you because there's so much frantic action on the screen at once. You need the game to slow down just a little bit to give you the edge. This game is huge and awesome and extremely varied. Sometimes Poseidon himself can be taking you down, but remember you could always surface and take out the ships from the air. This game is insanely awesome and very intense. Number 1, 3 Dirty Dwarfs. Three Dirty Dwarfs is a beat-em-up in a time where beat-em-ups were becoming less and less popular. People were pretty much burnt out of them by the time the 16-bit era faded, and the Sega Saturn didn't really know that, so it came up with this, which is pretty legendary. Basically, you could get hit 3 times here. When you get hit once, that dwarf goes down. You can get a hit point back by walking over and slugging him quick, and he's back. If you happen to keep on walking, though, you might lose that dwarf until you come across the box where then you can find him again. This game has a great personality, and this time, when you set it on easy, medium, or hard, the game actually changes as well. In the very first stage, when you set it on easy, you just walk on the very top screen. If you set it on normal, then there's some switch puzzle elements in there where you have to go down into the sewers to make sure you hit the switches to turn off the electricity. This game is super well thought out, down to the bosses too! Heck, the first boss of the game is some crazy homeless person that throws dogs at you, and you have to run around him and throw into the background to take him out. This game is freaking hilarious. There's even like a building later in the game that is basically just a boss battle in itself, and that's insane. Add to it some naked ninjas, which I don't even want to get into here, and you have the best hidden gem for the Sega Saturn by far. But that's just my opinion. Thanks for watching.
This is the map that will guide us. To save the children, we must travel north. Here is our next target.